Welcome back to the Illini Audible Podcast. My name is Said Bravo. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the pod. As always, I really appreciate it. I especially appreciate it today because I know it's been a while since I've done a podcast. I've been on here and recorded one, but obviously it's been a little. Admittedly, it's been a little hard to kind of balance everything that I've been doing throughout the past several months, and so just wasn't able to record anything. Nothing materialized over the course of the past couple weeks. So unfortunately, but that doesn't matter anymore because we're back. We're back talking about this Illinois football team, and we're back talking about another win. I'm back from Geese Memorial Stadium. Uh, I also stopped by at volleyball because there happened to be a match happening, and I am working on a story for volleyball for on 24/7 Sports locally. Illini Inquirer going to be up at some point in the near future. But let's stick to football today. Obviously, a great win for this Illinois football team coming back off of a bye with, you get a sense of what this team really is in 2025. I've felt like I've known what this team is. They're really good. They're good. They're not great. They're good. And good entails beating a team like Maryland, beating a team like Rutgers. And it should entail what the next week should bring, although it may be hard because you shouldn't sleep on these teams. It may be hard. You may be challenging, but Illinois certainly has the capability and should be favored to go in and beat Wisconsin next week and then come back to Champaign and finish their season off with a win against Northwestern. Getting a little bit too ahead of myself, though. There's a lot to unpack inside of this game. There's a lot that really went down inside of this game, a lot of really good stuff that you felt encouraged about when it comes to this particular Illinois football team. The biggest thing you felt good about is the fact that this Illinois defense continues to make strides of progress, show signs of life as the season continues to progress and as the season continues to kind of wind down. The last two games, how many points have they scored? How many points have they allowed the past two games? 19. I mean, that is a really stark contrast to what it's looked like over the course of most of the season. Obviously, you have the ultimate crapping of the bed that was Indiana. You go into Washington and you no show, and the Purdue game where you felt like this Illinois team should win handedly. Turns out the defense struggled mightily against that Purdue offense, and so you really hoped that that was something that would continue to trend in the right direction. And it seems like that is exactly what's trending in the right direction for this Illinois football team. It's the idea that they can get better in season. And obviously, as we continue to look at all these results, obviously the Ohio State loss, the USC loss or win, a lot of it you felt like this team was giving up a lot of points. And it was statistically, it was one of the worst in the Big Ten, one of the worst defenses. But hey, they're able to contain a couple of middling teams in the Big Ten. And considering where this team was earlier in the season, you feel good about that. You feel really good about what this defense has done for you over the course of the past couple weeks, specifically the last two. But obviously, a lot to kind of unpack. There were a significant amount of passes batted down by the defensive line, which is something that's always encouraging, right? You had a guy in you had a obviously you had a bunch of pass breakups by the secondary, but Andrew McCollum got in there, Kurt Neal got in there, and you felt like this team was able to contain that. And whenever before the balls were able to get to even the intended targets, that ball was out of play. That ball was dead because of what the defensive line was able to do. I think the pressure still, I think, leaves a little bit to be desired, but they did enough. They did enough. Bottom line today, and they only allowed 6 points. Still very bendy, right? Like, let's not get it twisted. This defense is still very bended. The bottom line, though, is that the past 2 weeks just haven't broken. And you feel good about the fact that they've been able to do that. To me, the biggest tell on this defense. And you could say that, and there's certainly 100%. There's no question to me that there were the Illinois, or excuse me, Maryland's wide receivers were doing a couple of favors for you over the course of this game. There were a couple drops that were very obscure, that I think were out of the realm of like, they were just weird drops that if another team converts these kinds of plays, which, because of the fact that you know the rest of your schedule with two teams that haven't necessarily been the greatest, you feel comfortable about this where the defense is. Listen, if you were to go into the next couple of weeks and you said, okay, we have a better opponent that's coming up, you would be concerned. But right now, I don't think that is a point of concern. But obviously, that defense still needs to get more pressure. There were plenty of moments where you felt like that quarterback, young Malik Washington, had a lot of time to do whatever he want as a passer, and he was in the pocket forever. And there were times where he left the pocket. Obviously, still a young freshman that needs to learn more things as his college career unfolds. This man, there's no question about it that this quarterback is very talented, and I don't know what his future holds, but I really think that this quarterback is just the athleticism on this guy, the arm. He was impressive. Illinois able to contain a guy like him. That you feel encouraged. You feel encouraged about that. Uh, there were a couple of those, and the defense for the most part played really, really well. A lot of good stats all across the board. Matthew Bailey, 10 total tackles. You had Dylan Rosiak with the 2 pass breakups. There were a couple of times too when he penetrated the pocket. Just it was a bit too late to get anything, but you felt good about that. Gabe Akis had a half a tackle for loss, half a sack, a couple of tackles in there as well. But I thought you saw, despite the fact that James Thompson went down early inside of that game, the nose tackles were able to hold the fort appropriately. I will say I did notice that the and this is probably just the most obvious observation. I mean, Angel McCombs still has a ways to go, but 2 pass breakups for him. I mean, 2 batted balls down. That's good stuff to see from a young nose tackle. But Kurt Neal provided significantly more pressure whenever he was on there. Pat Farrell felt like he played his ass off, half a tackle for loss, half a sack, uh, a tackle in there as well. Eli Conan, who I don't think we've seen so much. He had a QB hit and then a tackle as well. Obviously, can't forget the Pat Farrell pass breakup as well. He had that he batted down. James Krutz as well. You heard his name, and whenever you hear their names, I mean, that is a sign. And yeah, overall, you felt good about what this defense was able to do against this competition today at Memorial Stadium, and you hope that that trend continues. So good stuff by the defense. The most telling drive, and I'm sorry, I got to go back to this. That 99-yard drive where Maryland was putting Illinois' defense on its heels, to have that happen where you allow 96 yards, and then in the last 3 you hold them to a 4th and short, and then you end up convert they end up failing to convert. I mean, that is some grittiness as well. It's a bit of luck, I will admit, with a couple of drops, but that, no question about it, is some grittiness. And so Matt Bailey told us after the game that, it's preparation, training, whatever, that they continue to harp on, and prepares them for that moment, I guess. So really good stuff there. I thought Torrey Cox at the start of the game had a really good sequence where he batted that ball down, a 50-50 ball. He batted it down, and you felt good about what kind of game he had. Angelo McCullum, man, he was featured very heavily inside of that first drive, and you felt, while you hope for more impact, this is a guy who's still developing. I was talking to James Thompson throughout the week, and this is a guy that they connect. The both of them connect, being guys from Ohio, but it's a guy that they see as building his way up, a young guy who is poised to become that next nose tackle here inside of this program. And he there's no question about it that I think he's going to end up being that, taking that prominent step forward next season. Obviously, this season you saw a good amount of production. You've seen a good amount of features for him, and so you wonder what the future lies for him. But I think that he'll be featured much more next season as well. All right, let's move a little bit towards the offense. Luke Altmaier had a pretty good game. Obviously, not the numbers you are accustomed to seeing in the passing game, but really the story of this offense was the rushing attack, what they did on the ground. Caden Fagan, 81 yards, 14 carries, 1 touchdown, a long of 10. But man, Luke Altmaier using his legs, that is something we haven't we're starting to see more as the season continues to progress. And that is something that you're encouraged by, because other than the fact that this Luke Altmaier guy does not slide a lot of times, does not slide at the best times, this is a dude who you feel good running. I mean, running the ball, he's a good runner of the football, and all you need to kind of fully complete that process is hope that this is a guy who continues to understand when to slide, when to avoid the hits, because he does take some really big hits. But other than that, obviously 62 yards. There were a couple design runs for him. And then he had a big run of 27 yards. And overall, Luke Altmaier, I mean, this continues to cement the legacy that he is cementing as one of the better quarterbacks in Illinois football history. Obviously, there's not a big list, but this is one of those quarterbacks that you feel really good about where his legacy is going to end up, and you wonder what his future holds. 15 for 25, 172 yards, 2 touchdowns, and interception, which was, granted, this Maryland team forces a lot of interceptions. I think that was their 18th interception of the season. Pretty impressive number, although for them that wasn't able to give them any sense of momentum. They really couldn't against this Illinois defense, and they beat themselves on a couple sequences as well. So as we continue to break this down, Khalil Valentine, I mean, still continues to get those reps. Obviously, we didn't see Aiden Lawfrey inside of this game. Bielema said that he was cleared. Just needed to see a little bit more from him physically. So you don't. I guess the thing is, when you have two running backs that are very distinct in Caden Fagan and Khalil Valentine, that feels like enough. And then you add in Luke Altmaier, it feels like more than enough to make give the defense different looks. And you saw a lot of that. Hill Valentine offered that very springy, quick feel, and then Fagan is just a tank. And he broke out for a couple big runs as well inside of this game. Khalil Valentine, like I continue to say, I mean, I think you'll continue to see him grow next season. He will be that prominent back if he stays, because obviously always that if. But hey, even Jordan Anderson got in there. Well, for one carry for 20 yards, that was a big one. So that was encouraging to see as well. With the wide receivers, you had obviously Hank Beatty, always reliable. Only five receptions for 28 yards. So a couple short passes to him where he was able to break out for a little bit, a couple of yards. The story was, though, in the passing game, Hudson Clement and his connection to Luke Altmaier continues to grow. We've seen that over the course of the past 2 weeks. 3 weeks, obviously with the bye. But we've continued to see his growth with this team, and specifically with Luke Altmaier. The weeks before the past two games, they had been close to connecting on those big wow plays, those long receptions. And look at what it's materialized into. Last game he had a touchdown and 80 something yards. Today he has two touchdowns, a long of 27 and 72 receiving yards. that's good stuff to see from a guy that came in with significant expectations, because this is one of those guys that was leading his previous organization, his previous program, West Virginia, in receptions and in yards. And you felt like this might be a candidate guy for a guy that might be a candidate to lead that, to become that alpha. Obviously, clearly that alpha has become Hank Beatty, even regardless of the fact that he didn't wasn't featured as much, but or didn't have as much production as you you maybe come to expect. But I mean, make no question about it, is Hudson Clement one of those guys who's really been a guy that you hoped that you discovered. I hope that you hope that he flourished, and it's happening towards the end of the season. Uh, they've been trying to get on the same page for over the course of the past year, the season. They One thing that Hudson Clement told me post game is probably the hardest part is just getting on that same page and getting accustomed to what Luke wants. And so I think that's been probably the biggest challenge for for Hudson Clement is, you get a new playbook, you're in a new place, new playbook, new play caller, new quarterback. And then beyond that, you to get a little bit more into the roots, you have to get accustomed to what your quarterback wants. And it's just been a process for them. And it looks like that process is coming to fruition right now. So good stuff for him as well. And the thing that really stands out about this performance today is the fact that early on, this offense struggled. This offense only scored that one touchdown, and then the defense for Maryland was able to do a good job against Illinois. And you thought that, obviously we've come to expect the fact that this team's strength is primarily their passing attack. Obviously, you have a great quarterback, an offensive line that can really contain, and we'll talk about the offensive line, the way they performed, because they did really well as well today. But you also had a team of wide receivers that you feel like, okay, you're going to feed them the ball, you're going to continue to do that. Well, today, while that wasn't materializing over the course of the first couple sequences of this game, after Luke Altmaier fumbled the ball, I think Illinois' offense had less than 50 yards on the ground. Well, after that, they just stepped on, they just fed it to Khalil Valentine. It opened it up for Caden Fagan. And then suddenly Luke Altmaier's running again. And it combines for 225 yards inside of one game. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that you adjust. You adjust based on what the game and the opponent is telling you, and they were able to do that. I think sometimes offensive coordinators, offensive minds probably have egos, right? They want to show you the flashes. They want to show you the big explosive plays. Well, you saw today that some of that just wasn't needed because they were able to run the ball effectively against this Maryland defense, and you feel encouraged about that. So really good stuff for this Illinois team as the season, like I said, continues to wind down. 7-3, you feel good about where exactly this team is, especially because I think if Illinois had won a game against Washington, if they had won that game against, let's say, Indiana, right? If this game has been different, obviously the ranking would be much higher, and then we'd be talking CFP, and we'd be out of our minds right now talking about the possibilities that are for the future of this football team. One thing that should not go under the radar is the fact that I think if you had that, and you would consider these last couple games as kind of a lull in the schedule where you say, okay, well, Illinois should win this one and should win the next one and the next one after that because they just aren't the same caliber of opponents. Well, because of the fact that you didn't win those games, these games no longer seem as easy as they are, and you don't risk that mental shift. You don't risk that kind of happening. You kind of stumbling in your path to continue. I think you don't see any of these games as trap games. You see these games as games that are really going to challenge and test you. And I think that's probably the best way to kind of look at things, especially because this team, I continue to go back to that Minnesota game. I understand that Illinois was playing a lot of 50-50 games, and they won most of them. Well, this season, you haven't played a whole lot of 50-50. The only one really you've played was that USC game, and USC was playing under probably awful circumstances. Not trying to make excuses, but they were in a different time zone, playing really early in the morning, whatever. Anyway, point blank, they won that game by a narrow score. If you find yourself in a 50-50 game, you don't have that much experience inside of that this season. You might not need to have that experience because you might not need to be in a close game, but you certainly hope that the shift doesn't the mental shift does not happen. And I don't think it does. I don't think it will. It helps that the bye week has been kind of later in the season, whereas last season, bye week was more spread out and you felt like a lull could happen at any point. But this season, I think this team really wants to match that record of 9-3. Obviously, they want to, but you just after the disappointments that were the huge games inside of the schedule, you'd be disappointed if they lost one of these games coming up. And you certainly hope that this team can continue to win these next two games and they end the season on a 4-game winning streak, roll into bowl season. We'll see what happens, what materializes, and the standard continues to be raised here at Illinois, here in Champaign-Urbana, and you hope that continues. So with that being said, that's really all I had for you guys. Just wanted to hop on and chat a little bit about what I saw inside of this game. Obviously, a lot of really good stuff that you'd want to see from a team that, like we said, the bars continue to be raised. It's a solid team in the Big Ten, one that would be competing for a top 25 ranking, and one that hopes to compete in a big bowl game. We'll see when that standard continues to be elevated, but for now, appreciate you guys so much for listening. Subscribe, rate, review if you so please. And yeah, peace.